Hi. Today on the 01581 Let's Talk, a full conversation the whole time dedicated to time with our town manager, Kristi Williams. Join us in just a moment. Thanks. Hi and welcome back. I'm joined by a regular guest, Kristi Williams, but Kristi, you're on the whole time. No, we don't have you for just a few minutes, so
Exciting.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate
Sure.
it. And the reason for that is there's lots going on. We've got the second newsletter that's out. I know you're going to talk about that.
Yep.
And then there's some other items you want to go into a little bit more detail on. So,
Yeah.
So take it away. I'm really
Okay.
just talking ahead at this point.
Okay. So the newsletter, we put out our second quarterly newsletter not last week, and so feeling pretty excited that we're kind of getting into the sort of routine with all the department heads, and I think people really responded well to the first one, so excited about that. I encourage people to take a look at it. There's a lot of just important dates or alerts. One of the things in there that I think is really important is about the work that's being done in the Rotary.
Yes. Yep.
And so how that traffic is going to be impacted, for the period of time in July. So, things like that are really things
Sure.
that we want to highlight and make sure people are aware of.
So some basic things about the newsletter. So the newsletter is available online right on the front of our website, the town's website, and it's also available printed copies. Is that correct, or can people ask for that?
People could ask for that.
Okay.
Right now, there's a sign-up list, so if people go into that e-alerts, they can sign up for the newsletter, and so when it comes out, it'll push out. So.
Just right to their email
Yeah.
or what have you. Okay,
Yeah.
great, excellent. So there were a couple things I noticed in the newsletter, if we can just take a moment.
Sure.
So one is, a lot of Westboro just escapes to the Cape, in July. Town offices don't. It's actually a very busy season, right? Because it's the start of the fiscal year. So.
Yes.
All the work that was done previously, which is sort of how you open the newsletter, in terms of in all the other boards and committees and certainly departments, July 1 marks the fiscal year. So,
So Happy New Year.
yeah, Happy New Year,
Yeah.
right? Is that yeah? Oh, I heard some fireworks. Is that what happens?
Yeah, very
Right.
exciting.
Okay. So the start of the fiscal year. I know one of the other important elements here, and you talk about, is the Citizen Leadership Academy, and we've touched on that a little bit, but
Yeah.
if you can.
So the materials for application are available on the website as well. If you go onto you can link through it actually through the newsletter.
Okay.
You can also go to the town manager page on the website. There's an application due July 28th.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we have spots for 15 folks
Okay.
who want to be a part of that, but we're
Yeah.
really excited. So July 28th is a deadline, and we'll review the applications. And then that program really kicks off on September 13th.
Okay.
So it'll be Wednesdays through the fall, ending right before the Thanksgiving holiday.
Okay.
And the department heads really have a lot of exciting things planned.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and I know you mentioned this in one of your updates to the select board, but it sounds like certainly it's been several years since the program was initially launched, and I know that you and Owen in your office have done some research about some kind of better or best practices, but there's some like situational kind of learning that you'll do or that the applicants will do.
Yeah, so we wanted to get sort of out of the classroom style in any way that we could. So we have the community development department is going to include a bus tour, so looking at some different development sites going on in town. The fire department wants to really get everyone involved in some training exercises, probably trying on some of the equipment, really checking that out. Board of Health and Conservation are completely outside the classroom, really meeting with their class. Up at the Bowman Conservation Area.
Great.
So different examples. I think you're going to do a chair yoga class. You're going to go to the golf club, and then there's going to be a mock town meeting at the end with John Arnold. So
that's great.
Yeah,
That's
really,
great.
really fun stuff.
And the idea here really is give folks sort of a deeper view into like how does town government work? What are all these departments? How do the boards and committees kind of interact with those departments, and hopefully to get folks interested, right, in participating.
Yeah, so definitely both of those goals of really just helping people understand municipal government, and then really hoping to generate some interest in volunteering. So we've actually already had some folks reach out who are sort of newly appointed, who said, I know I'm on a board or committee, but I feel like I have a lot to learn. And, that's exactly what this is for. So excited about that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for launching that, and to all the staff involved, because I know it's, in addition to what they're doing to provide the service, but certainly is essential. We also know that the Golf Club Committee has pretty much wrapped up its community survey process, right? I think that wraps up last week or this week. Okay.
Yeah, so the community survey wrapped up on June 30th. We had over 1,500 responses to the survey, so we're actually meeting tomorrow night to go over the survey results and start to craft the recommendation back to the board.
Okay, great, excellent.
I do think for that, we're actually targeting the last meeting in September to present back to the board, and I think there's a lot of conversation in the community about what the purpose of that committee is, and just really making sure people understand it's really about what's the future use of that building and not the full property, because we understand that the full property is the golf course, and that wasn't part of the charge of the select board.
Right. Although understanding certainly how that building is used contiguous to that, to the golf course is obviously certainly very relevant. But so I know that there are lots of folks in the community, as is evidenced by the survey, that are interested in what happens there. So that's exciting. And we've got economic development. We've got a pop-up store that was rewarded by a grant, right? So that's. Do you want to touch on that?
Sure. So there's it's a program that Zach Bagner launched before he left, which is this pop-up program. So it really gives these stores like the ability to locate in a brick and mortar. So so we have the Hige or
it's
Hold?
Huga.
Huga, okay.
I know, trust me, I've had to practice it many times. It's Huga.
Yeah, bookstore. And so they're having their grand opening in July 20th, so next week. And so that's really a great opportunity for them. It's a great opportunity for us, and hopefully it's a successful program that we can offer to other folks.
And it's a really cool bookstore. I was there for sort of the soft opening. Really neat place, little nooks for folks to go check out. Beth Orsini is the owner-operator, and really welcoming place. So definitely go check that out. That's on East Main Street at 57 East Main Street. So check that out. And let's see what else. I see the Council on Aging is very busy this summer.
Yes.
Lots going on there.
Yeah. So they've been doing the last few years. They're typically open till 4:00 every day of the week. But during the summer, they do these late Tuesday nights, which are really fun events. So they do everything from the fire department comes and does a big barbecue for them. I know in the past they've done games with police officers. Great way for the staff to get involved, but also really fun just for the community to come and be a part of that. And it's in the evening, and they provide transportation. So they have 8 Tuesday nights. Definitely encourage folks to check that out.
And we're taping on Tuesday night. I've already talked to my mother-in-law. She'll be there tonight. I think there's some great entertainment happening. So hopefully folks will check that out. And Council on Aging is also hosting its Sunshine Memory Cafe. So that's going on to help caregivers who are caring for someone with memory issues to kind of have a place where it's welcoming and comfortable. And so you can learn all about this through the senior scene, which is available on the town's website, in the Council on Aging kind of web pages. And those hard copies are available at many locations throughout the community, and certainly in Town Hall, Library, Senior Center. So check out the senior scene, and if you're wondering what's going on, call the Senior Center and say, what's going on? So they'll be sure to give you that information. What else? Anything else? I know we want to talk about ARPA, which sounds like I just had a cough, but it's, Is there anything else in the newsletter you wanted to cover, Kristi?
I think just reminding people that the Lake Chauncey is open. The gate is open sort of town hall hours. So 8 to 5 Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 to 6 on Tuesday, and 7:30 to noon on Friday. And really just That's from July 3rd to the August 11th, and so it's swim at your own risk because we couldn't get lifeguards. And I know that everyone's disappointed. I'm disappointed.
Sure.
Hopeful that we're able to work through this in the future. So.
Yeah. So one of the questions someone had asked me, it's actually in the newsletter, is okay, we don't have lifeguards. Are we still testing the water because it's it's a kind of an enclosed body of water, for I think it's cyanobacteria, and that is happening.
Yes.
That regular testing is done by the Board of Health. Right? Is
Yep,
that correct?
Yep. And then we are also treating the beach for the algae blooms. So understanding that folks are using it. We have gone through that study, so we couldn't treat it for a year, but we are treating it this year.
Excellent.
So.
Excellent. Well, and maybe that's a whole other conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, at some point.
Probably.
So great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Well, again, what's new, Westboro? Get your copy. I printed mine, and lots of information in there, and lots going on. So thank you and your team for putting that together.
Great. Sure.
Okay, ARPA.
Yes.
Okay.
So ARPA is American Rescue Plan. So we refer to it as ARPA funds. And so I do have a presentation to show you, just kind of get everyone up to speed on where we're at. And it's something that's going to come to the select board on July 11th to really start looking at the balance of funds.
Right.
So.
Okay, great.
As folks may or may not know, the ARPA money came from the federal government in response to COVID to really take care of different things that people were feeling from the effects of COVID. Right. This was subsequent to other money that was provided to the community that we really used a lot for, like masks and barriers and all the things that we needed during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic. So these ARPA funds, they have to be committed by the end of 2024. So we've talked about these at town meeting and in other venues, and just wanted to give a...
Yeah, Kristi, if I could just, when you say committed, so what does that mean versus when the money actually has to be spent, just so the viewers understand?
Sure. So it has to really be under contract. Okay. So the select board will award. That doesn't count as committed. Okay. It has to be under contract.
Okay. And then we have up until 2026 to actually spend the money under those contracts.
Right.
Okay, good.
Yep. So the process that we've established here in Westboro, and each community has a different process, is that the department heads, and actually we'd asked a couple different committees, Sustainable Westboro, Affordable Housing Trust, if they had proposals. And so then they submit the proposals to us, and then our finance team, which is made up of the select board chair, the advisory finance committee chair, the school committee chair, and then staff, so finance staff on the town side and finance staff on the school side, inclusive of the superintendent. And so we work through the different proposals and we make a recommendation to the advisory finance committee. Okay. And then the advisory finance committee will hear those proposals. They actually just recently heard another round of proposals on June 27th. And then they will send their votes to the select board, really recommending what they think the select board should award, and then the select board can take that into consideration. And
just for the public's benefit, we also, way back when, it feels like forever ago, the town contracted with Clifton Larson, right? So they're a consulting firm that has experience in this, and so they really are, I'll call it like our validation channel to make sure that however we're proposing to use the money, that it meets all the very rigorous standards that the federal government set.
Yes.
So that there's no clawback of that we're comfortable with.
Right. And also they help us with the reporting requirements to the Treasury, which is huge. Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's been discussion all along at the federal level about the potential clawback. So something we've been really tracking and been cognizant of when they were talking about the debt ceiling, that was really when we had some concerns, but they haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, for the public's benefit, I think it's also an important conversation, because some folks would say, well, are we just these are all valid projects, but shouldn't we just kind of hold on to it for to build on some sort of rainy day fund for the town? But that's not the intent of ARPA. And so understanding that contract date was 12/31/2024, and then the expenditures by 26. And the money needs to be spent. So there is a defined process. The town is following that, and we're well underway. So okay.
And then just really making sure that once departments are awarded, if they don't use all the money or if they need more money, they really have to go back through that whole process. So it's really, it's a very clear, formal process.
Sure. And every department has the opportunity to participate in this process, right?
So just talking about fundings and deadlines, we just did a little bit, but the total award was that just over 5.7 million of ARPA funds. Total project requests, so that came through the town and school departments, was over 14 million. So
no issue on spending money there, right? You're right.
Just trying to make sure that we're awarding the money, you know, fairly. So,
but I think it, that number also speaks to, look, these are projects that are, our town staff and leadership have said are somewhere in the pipeline, or there's a need. And so, this, the fact that we have this money is is a huge benefit to the town. I mean, because it doesn't go to taxes, and it doesn't. I mean, ultimately, some of the items may, if there's like a staffing increase that we're using money for. But anyway, I'll let you get into that.
No, it's okay. So we were able to knock a couple things off of the capital plan, which we would have otherwise probably used free cash or done a borrow for. So really, huge benefits kind of all around. Sure. And then those deadlines that we just mentioned are at the bottom of that.
Great.
So this is the approved projects to date, and this is all the information of what's going on to date is available on the website. So if you go to the select board page of the town website, there's a link to the ARPA, and we're trying to keep that updated where we're at.
Yeah, so for folks who are looking at this saying, wait, slow down, you can go back out and look at that. Yeah.
And we'll add this slide presentation to that. Great. So we have some DPW projects you can see here, and you can see there's some notes on the side that say that they were increased. Sometimes we had to increase things because the projects came in a little bit higher than we thought. And so a lot of these are underway. So the water systems improvements in the DPW, the working capital grant program is about to go underway. Public safety radio is underway. So we're really working through a lot of these. The dog park, we were able to get a grant. That was initially a splash pad project. But really, once we started to sort of and that money was awarded, once we started to kind of get into the details of it.
So meaning awarded select board, and that through this process was awarded, and then there was research around the contract process, right?
Yeah, basically. So there were some issues sort of just figuring out how we could use the grant, and just kind of the whole project got a lot bigger than I think they expected. So refocus that, and that went back through the process to change it to the dog park project. And then that professions grant reporting eligibility, that's the vendor that you were just talking about. So some additional things. At the bottom there, you see 2 youth and family projects. Neither of those are underway at this point because we currently don't have a director. But just understanding that money is still being held for those 2 projects.
And again, to the point earlier, there are very specific reporting requirements. So you really need someone to be able to oversee kind of these programs or how the grant money or the funding money, I guess, is being used.
Right.
Got it. Okay, so we spent about, or we've assigned 5.4 million.
Right.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
So one of the things on a previous slide that I should note is that money that's not been spent yet is earning interest. And so that interest is also being held as an uncommitted fund that could potentially be used for these purposes. So these are ARPA proposals that we were able to fund through alternative sources, and I really think that the community should be really proud of this. So these are all proposals that have been put forward, and we were really able to work with town meeting or with the state, with our delegation. So you can see here there is earmarks that we got through the state. There's the revolving account. Just really thinking outside the box, understanding the importance, to your point, of all of these projects.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, so we look at that, we've already spent 5.4, there was 14.5 that was sort of asked, the wish list, right, the Santa wish list, and then, we've got almost 3 million here, so we're much closer to that 14.5. If I could think quickly, I'd know what that percentage is, but I don't right now. But I think these are really important elements. I mean, got an ambulance, we're replacing vehicles, commercial washer dryer for our fire department. I mean, really important stuff that needs to be done. And even though they might be small ticket items, you can just kind of find funding elsewhere. And I would say also these funding sources also come through really well-run internal town processes, as well as I'll say sort of healthy and proactive relationships with our delegation, both Senate and representatives.
Yes. We've been very lucky working with them. And then this one is some of the ARPA proposals that were not funded. So a little over 5 million of not funded. And that was for various reasons, just sort of thinking through the the priority of the different
Sure.
projects, or where there might have been an alternative funding source that
Sure.
that we wanted to pursue and maybe didn't actually end up being able to obtain.
And
So.
not on like any personal budget, right? You sort of want to be able to do everything, and you say, well, I've only got so much money, right? So how are we going to kind of spend it? And again, you have a process, so that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then the last slide is items that are going to be considered by the select board at that July 11th meeting. So that's already gone through the process. We had this additional, just about $400,000 worth of funds, and we asked department heads, what are you looking for now? And then we worked with the finance team, brought it to the finance committee. Ultimately, all of them were recommended to be funded in the same order that the finance team had put forward.
Right. So what we're seeing here is we've got almost 781,000 of total requested. We have just slightly under 400,000 available to spend, and we're recommending just about all of that. And again, to your point, we still have interest in some of these other unused funds, even if they've been assigned and are under contract. So so there may be some more money we can kind of squeeze out of this to assign to other projects, but some really important ones. I mean, the Council on Aging benefiting from, and it's kind of those that use the services through the Daybreak program, which will help. We know from our senior needs assessment program that folks who are caregiving with those who have cognitive or other ailments, if you will, could benefit from that program. And then we've got DPW. None of Chris's projects are small, but essential, right? I mean, we need to make sure our sewer and water lines and all the other great work that they do are maintained. And then can you talk a little bit about the firefighters? Because that is a change. So they recommended, or they requested about 300,000. It's been reduced to 100,000. At least that's what's going before the board. Can you just touch on that?
So the assessment that was done of the organization and the staffing back in 2018 recommended that 4 additional firefighters be hired for FY25. And as the chief has talked at length about, obviously the call volume has really increased and really outpaced what we had expected through that. So the chief had come to the board asking to apply for the SAFER grant, which we've done before, which is a way to fund additional firefighter positions. The town didn't receive that SAFER grant. So in looking, I think that's not atypical that we didn't receive it, because we got it in 2015 and we got 8 firefighters then.
Right. So like all grant cycles, they look at what you've been awarded, and they've got to kind of look at the whole Commonwealth and kind of allocate accordingly.
Sure. And so the chief had asked for 4 additional firefighters going into the fiscal 24 budget. And so the town meeting did fund 1, and then the other 3 were recommended to fund through ARPA.
Sure.
As it moved through the process, there was concern about adding 3 to the budget, because after the ARPA funds run out for that project, then it would go on to the tax levy. So the discussion was that we would fund 1 or $100,000 worth, however far that could go.
Sure.
And then that the chief that would bring an article to the fall town meeting for the additional 2. And so what we did was we asked the finance committee to support that as well in their vote. So
and I think that what I think is important here about this in the message is it's not that there's not a willingness to fund the firefighters. There's definitely a demonstrated need. But typically when we're looking at staffing increases, that really is a discussion through the town meeting ramp-up process, and then ultimately for town meeting to decide, look, it's your tax dollars. Do you support, this reasoning for adding the staffing? Because that is an ongoing cost. It's not a one-time, hit. So.
Exactly. And we did fund police officers through ARPA. In an incremental way, so that there was money appropriated in the budget to begin that funding.
Sure. Right. So, and then there are a couple items here that are not, or excuse me, one item that was not recommended to fund, and that is presently the bookmobile through the library. But I think that what you'll hear at the select board meeting is that there are a lot of other resources in the community, and a lot of people are touched by certainly what the library does and its services. But then you also have the schools and how they're working with students even in kind of the summertime. So I think that there's an opportunity, as I've read the material, to take a look at, kind of what is the purpose of the bookmobile, and are there other targeted kind of groups I'll use seniors as an example, where there can be kind of some collaboration between the Council on Aging and the library to kind of support that without doing a bookmobile.
Right,
So,
right.
because there is ongoing costs and all, but we see the library's going to get some computers, hopefully, if it's all approved,
Yep.
and then the schools are benefiting here as well. So.
Yep, and then there's a request in there for $10,000 to match a downtown development plant grant.
Yep.
And so I think, that will be a great project that I think will follow on the master plan really well. So
Sure.
I'm sure we'll have another show about that.
Yeah,
if we
absolutely.
get that grant.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, lots going on. I will say I'm disappointed that my picture of the dunk tank isn't on the front page, but I do see, I think I'm there behind that. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Kristi, thank you so much. Great update. Keep these coming. And for folks that want to learn more about ARPA, go to the town's website. Again, it's under the Select Board page. You can find the tab on the left-hand side that talks about ARPA funding. If you have any questions about this, our town manager is available to answer your questions. And again, thanks for tuning in to the 01581 Let's Talk.